Good morning and welcome to Staten Island, those that are on Facebook with us and those that are here in the room. We are so happy to be here on this Sunday morning, and it's got the sun shining today, so we're excited about that. Yeah. And God gave me a word this morning He titled it, "For Such a Time as This." Did you ever stop to wonder why you are living in this time today? And why you go through some of the things you go through? Why you meet some of the people you meet? Why you do some of the dumb things that you do that you don't plan on doing? But why? Why are you living at this time? And many people would say today, I don't want to be living today. This is not a good time to be living. We have all the hatred in this world. We have killings. We have the gay marriages, we have abortions, we have Black Lives Matter, we have Police Lives Matter, we have Me Too movement, we have all these things that cause controversy. So why are we living in a day like this? What about politics? We have a line down the middle right now. Republicans, Democrats, and people not agreeing with each other, very critical. We have people slandering each other in different parts of the world. When Brett Kavanaugh was up for justice, all the slandering that went on, all the people, all the lies, it continues. It continues. Life is not good right now in our eyes, in the natural eyes. But why are we living at this time? What about the caravan of people that are coming up from Guatemala and Mexico? And a lot of us are just saying, we don't want all those people here. But you know what? No matter what's going on, all these people that are very controversial, and we think they're God's people. They're God's children. So why are we living in a time like this? We aren't the first generation to be going through problems. We're not going to be the last. But we tend to think that things are getting worse and worse and worse. But I'm here to tell you there's been times in the past that were probably just as bad, if not worse, than we're going through right now. And what comes to mind is the story of Esther. And many of you may not know Esther. Esther was a young girl who was brought up by her cousin Mordecai because her parents had passed away. And starting in verse 2, or chapter 2, verse 7, it says, And Mordecai had brought up Hadash, that is Esther, his uncle's daughter, for she had neither father nor mother. The young woman was lovely and beautiful. When her father and mother died, Mordecai took her to be his own daughter. And where she was living in that area, the king had gotten rid of his first wife. He dethroned her, and now he's out looking for a new queen. And Mordecai thought that it would be wonderful if his cousin Esther could, should we say in today's language, apply for the job of queen. And all these virgins were brought to the king. But they had to have favor. They went through a school, they learned how to walk, they learned how to dress. Much time was spent with these girls that were applying for the job of queen. And Esther found favor. Esther found favor. In verse 15 it says, Now when the turn came for Esther, the daughter, and who had been taken at her as his daughter, to go into the king, she requested nothing but what Haggai, the king's eunuch, the custodian of the women, advised. And Esther obtained favor in the sight of all who saw her. She found favor. It's not because she was this perfect woman. It wasn't because she was the girl who was the prettiest and could walk the best. She found favor. And as the story goes on, the king really liked Esther. He fell in love with her. And as he did, what he didn't know is he didn't know that Esther was Jewish. At the same time, one of the king's advisors, Haman, got advanced to one of the highest positions in the kingdom. And Haman took it very pridefully and very powerfully. And he wanted people to bow to him. He wanted people to wait on him and acknowledge how wonderful a man he was. But Esther's cousin Mordecai would not do this. He would not bow to Haman. He believed in Jesus Christ, or the Lord our God, and he would not bow to Haman. Haman was very upset. So he decided he would go to the king and ask a favor. He wanted the king to get rid of and annihilate all the Jews. All the Jews. Not just get rid of Mordecai. He had a plan to get rid of all the Jews. That, to me, is much worse than what we're going through today. I mean, we have people trying to get rid of the Republicans or the Democrats, the gays, the children, or whatever it is. But to get rid of a whole type and ethnic group of people. So Haman had this plan all put in place, and he thought it was a great plan. And in chapter 3, starting at verse 9, he says, if it pleases the king, let a decree be written that they be destroyed, they being the Jews, and I will pay 10,000 talents of silver into the hands of those who do the work, to bring it into the king's treasure. So he was also going to bribe the king with money. There was bribery going on, just like today. Things haven't changed. But then Mordecai heard about the plan. And he tried to get the plan to Esther to let her know that the king's advisor was trying to get rid of the Jews. And Esther thought she might be safe inside the kingdom. Yes. They were going back and forth, and Mordecai reminded Esther, you are a Jew also. This does not protect you. And when you go to Esther chapter 4, starting in verse 11, it says, all the king's servants and the people of the king's provinces know that any man or woman who goes into the courts, let me back up. Mordecai wanted Esther to go into the court of the king and ask favor because she needed to reveal this plan. But she was not able to go see the king at any time, not like men and women today who are married. Men and women today can just go in the other room and say, honey, I need to talk to you. She was not allowed to do this. She had to wait to be summoned. And so the plan was that she would go into the king and hope that he would summon her. But she reminded her cousin, that all the king's servants and the people of the king's province know that any man or woman who goes into the inner court of the king, who has not been called, he has but one law, put all to death, except the one to whom the king holds out the golden scepter, and that person may live. So Esther wasn't sure that if she went into the inner court that she'd be able to live or not. But yet, it was reminded to her that her life was at stake too. It wasn't just all the other Jewish people, but Esther was too. So her cousin said, for if you remain completely silent at this time, relief and deliverance will arise for the Jews from another place, but you and your father's house will perish. So in other words, if Esther did not take on this assignment of going into the king and finding God's favor, that she could help save the Jewish people, God would find somebody else. And that goes for us today. No matter what we're doing, what we're going through, God has a plan for us for such a time as this. But if we don't go with God's plan, he might have to find someone else to do it. And we don't want to be in that position. So as Mordecai said, yet who knows whether you have come to the kingdom for such a time as this. Mordecai was reminding her that might be God's plan for her, that she was to help save the Jews. And as it came to be, she went in, and she did find favor with the king. And in chapter 5, verse 3, the king said to her, what do you wish, Queen Esther? What is your request? It shall be given to you up to half the kingdom. Esther found favor in the eyes of the king. Her life was spared. Then she went on and was able to reveal the plan that Haman had to kill off all the Jewish people. It backfired. And oftentimes when we're trying to play with God's plan in our life, plans can backfire. Haman's backfired. As it came to be, he is the one who got killed. Not Mordecai, not Esther, not the Jewish people. In today's life, people try and do their own plans. They try and make things happen. They don't wait for God's plan. But when we try to do it our own way, or when we try and help it out, things backfire. God don't know the entire plan, but God has a plan. He has put people on this earth to help with the plan. And that hasn't changed. No man and no person is going to change God's plan that he has put in on this earth to begin with. People try. We've seen it over and over. We even saw it in the last elections. But God put in the man that he has called for such a time as this. We saw it in the last justice when Brett Kavanaugh was placed. And I truly believe for such a time as this,